busy operating Mozambican national everywhere, and you are not even registered anywhere. You are not counted. You are even illegal, and you are abusing me. This is unfair. It's unfair. I can't go to Zimbabwe and get health care. Do you think they can allow to operate me? It's for their own people.
The conversation about the migration crisis in the Southern Africa of a lot of Africans flocking to South Africa continues because the problem still exists and it's not getting solved. Most of the burning issues is around healthcare because many say the healthcare of South Africa cannot hold and cannot be able to service all those millions of immigrants coming from other African countries into South Africa. And I completely agree with that. The African voices want to bring this Pan-Africanism in this conversation, and I completely disagree with that nonsense.
However, the remarks of the MSC of Limpopo is disgraceful because she's not conscious. She doesn't understand that we are all Africans, that SADC, the regional arrangement, is more important than South Africa. She doesn't understand that these borders, Botswana, Zimbabwe, are not our borders. So for her to be speaking eloquently about victimizing a patient is disgraceful, because we must be putting the region before the country, the African before the South African, the African before the Zimbabwean. So we need more solidarity, we need more consciousness among our leaders. So the MAC from Limpopo demonstrated the lack of ideological clarity, lack of understanding of Pan-Africanism, lack of understanding of regional solidarity. Yes, we know the healthcare facilities are being constrained by, and overextended because of people coming from other regions. But to go to the extent of exhibiting xenophobic tendencies in the way she did is really disgraceful, because we must have the tragedy right now. Our leaders in South Africa have no ideological consciousness, have no Pan-Africanism in their blood.
Look, in the whole continent of Africa, probably there is no country with free healthcare except maybe for South Africa, okay? And for these other people from other African countries to go to South Africa and demand free healthcare or feel entitled, that is just insane. That is insanity. That just shows a lack of thinking. People are just not thinking properly, and I'm so disappointed to hear some of these educated voices like Professor Mtambara and them. Yes, we need to talk about Pan-Africanism. That is, I agree with that, but we need to understand the only Pan-Africanism that we must talk about is South Africa should allow our people to be treated, but they must pay. The conversation we should have, South Africa does not have the budget to take care of these people, then they should pay. They should expense for their own healthcare. Sure, it is like that all over the world. If you don't hold a citizenship of that country, it should be simple and clear, and you should pay for the healthcare. Then yes, of course, if they chase people away and who are willing to pay, then maybe we should start having a conversation in that sense. Then we can say they are being insensitive to people. If your country, if you're from Zimbabwe, if you're from Malawi and you're from Mozambique, your country cannot provide healthcare for you, even if you are supposed to pay, they don't have anything to give to you, then you cannot expect another country to take care of you. You cannot feel entitled. You must feel entitled in your own land, and you must speak up in your land about your government failing to provide healthcare for you.
This is not Ubuntu. It is not compassion. This is voluntary cultural and economic sabotage and surrender. And this is the regret that is now haunting many nations across the world. I mean, look at Britain. They chose to be compassionate. They chose to be diplomatic, welcoming immigrants into their nation. And tell me, where has that landed them?
There is a big comparison that this lady have made between the migration crisis in Europe and the migration crisis in South Africa. Those are two different things, and hear me out. You need to understand this. In Europe, within European countries themselves, they can move around their own countries with no issues, with no stress, and doesn't cause any crisis. And they have the EU passport, which allows people of the EU to move around. Everybody holds that passport. So The idea will be within the African continent, our cultures are not different and our levels of economic status not that different. So it won't cause an issue between black Africans if we move across each other's countries. The only problem is that it happens to have only one country in Africa which is doing well economically. That is where the problem is. So the real conversation we need to have as Africans is to solve our economic problems so that we do not have migrants running away from their own countries. That is where the problem is. The problem sits there where there is leaders who are useless, who are not doing what they're supposed to do. So all these people will start talking about Pan-Africanism whenever this conversation of migrants come up. They are actually not doing anybody a favor. They are actually doing a disservice to the reality. We are supposed to go back to the roots of the problem, why people have to move and run away from their own countries. We need to start there. If we resolve those problems, then there won't be any need. The problem is if you start talking about like pushing this idea that no, South Africa should be Pan-Africanist, South Africa must tolerate this, must tolerate that, you are now taking away the responsibility from those stupid and useless leaders who are supposed to be doing their own job. Those are the people we should be facing and holding accountable